Welcome to Zoom Out Bitcoin, the channel where we take a step back, zoom out, and look at the bigger picture involving Bitcoin. Today, I'm going to do a video talking about why I made this channel and what we're trying to do, which is push the conversation forward one step at a time. I imagine a world where the vast majority of people have complete sovereignty and freedom over their lives. So long as their currency, and through it their labor, is controlled by any entity, organization, group, or government, this dream is impossible. I can see a world where hard work and labor moves a person in only one direction, closer to the life they dream of. Since 1971, when Richard Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, our currency, and through it our time, energy, and effort, has been siphoned away from us through the invisible tax they call inflation. Since that time, it's estimated that the US dollar has lost 86% of its purchasing power, meaning $1 then is only 13 cents today. Milton Friedman, the world-famous economist, sums this up best. Inflation is just taxation without representation. I recently spoke with a close friend of mine about the universal inflation measurement, CPI. Reported CPI over the last 20 years is only 2.5%. But this doesn't paint the full picture. If you wanted to live a life traveling, a life on the beach, a life where you eat steaks every day and send your children to the best education they can, your real inflation rate has been much higher than this. In the last 20 years, beef prices has increased by over 114%, over doubling what the reported CPI percentage was for that time period. Beachfront properties during that same time period appreciated over 10% compounded annually. If you wanted to live in Malibu, the price of a Malibu property has increased by 800% since 1980. The cost of air travel and education have both doubled and in some cases quadrupled during that same time period, far exceeding what the predicted CPI inflation numbers were. It's worth noting that the qualities of these specific goods and services isn't drastically improving over this time period, and you can argue that our cows, travel, and beachfront properties are the exact same today as they were 20, 40 years ago. They just cost significantly more. This means that if you dream of a life full of happiness and adventure, eating steaks, traveling the world, and sending your kids to the best education you can get, your real CPI has a much closer to 10 to 15% annually, not the 2.5% that's been reported. And during this exact same time period, the quality of those goods and services hasn't changed. Since 1970, we have been sacrificing our freedom and control. People should be able to choose what they do with their time, energy, and money. They shouldn't be forced to invest in markets just so that they have a chance of keeping up with the life that they actually dream of. Individuals that choose to work hard and save their money should be treated fairly, not stolen from and left behind. But it doesn't have to be this way. The world has used hard money in the past, and there's evidence that supports that we were actually better off for it. From 1879 to 1914, the United States was on what is known as the classical gold standard, where every single US dollar was tied to a fixed rate of gold. So what happened during this nearly half a century stretch? Wages increased during this time period by nearly 50%. The average number of hours worked in a week decreased by 10%, and prices saw a steady deflationary rate of 0.4%, meaning prices decreased on average at 0.4% year over year. That's right. During this time period, not only did people make more money, they worked less hours, and the prices of goods and services decreased in value. On a classical hard money standard, we moved closer and closer to a life of abundance as goods and services became cheaper for everyone. We can point to other nations as well. After World War II, Switzerland was one of the last bastions of sound money principles left in the world, not leaving until 1971 when the United States ended the Bretton Woods system. During this quarter-century stretch, unemployment averaged under 0.5% in Switzerland, with the highest never exceeding 1%. Immediately following the end of the gold standard system, unemployment saw a spike all the way up to 6%, over 12 times above the average in Switzerland during the previous quarter of a century. Since the 1980s, the Switzerland unemployment rate has averaged 3%, over 6 times higher since it went on to a fiat standard system. During the time from 1940 to 1971, Switzerland didn't just have extremely low unemployment. They also averaged 5% year-over-year annual wage growth. Consistent low unemployment with economic growth flies in the face of the boom and bust cycles that we've gotten used to while being on the fiat standard. Inflation isn't just an economic issue, though. It's a freedom issue. because every extra dollar that is printed doesn't come out of thin air. It comes out of your pocket. Once again, Milton Friedman said it best. Inflation is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon. Inflation is always and everywhere a result of too much money. And there's only one place that inflation can happen, and that's Washington, D.C., because they control the money printers. And when that printing happens, asset owners everywhere, people who own stocks, real estate, and Bitcoin, get wealthier and wealthier. Meanwhile, savers, workers, and the middle class fall further and further behind. It's the most regressive tax in history, and it happens without a single vote. Both gold and silver have their downfalls. They're heavy to move, they're difficult to divide, and they're both susceptible to government seizures, as we've seen in the past. However, the shortcomings of these assets doesn't mean that sound money principles should be totally thrown to the wayside. I believe Bitcoin can be the next step of this evolution, providing all of the fiscal soundness of gold, along with all of the convenience of the digital world. This channel exists for one reason and one reason only: not to get people to buy Bitcoin, not to make money, but to push the conversation forward, one step at a time, closer to the world I envision. A world where individuals regain control of their time and energy. A world where hard work is always rewarded and everyone is making progress towards the life they dream of. If this resonates with you, then stick around, check out some of the other videos on this channel, and help me push the conversation forward one step at a time. Thank you all for listening. Bye.